You're listening to the New Dominion podcast, where we engage in curious and faith-filled conversations around stewarding our health and community with others. We're so glad you're here. I am Kirsten Hansen. I am a functional nutrition practitioner in St. Louis, Missouri, here with my friends and co-hosts, Dr. Abby Keene, who is a chiropractic physician and functional nutrition practitioner.
You got
and
that.
Taylor Keene, her husband, who is a licensed practical counselor. We are all in St. Louis.
Licensed what? What did you say? Licensed
professional counselor.
Do you call them practical?
You said practical. I'm like, I'm a practical counselor too, but like, that's not my license. I'm not sure they have a license for that.
This is where I start singing.
Please.
Welcome. We are so glad that our listeners are here with us. Let's get started.
Yes.
Let's do.
Today, we are going to introduce, is it called the Triangle of Wellness?
Health?
It has many forms. I learned it during chiropractic school as the triangle of stress, but I am an optimist, and that just sounded too depressing. So I changed it to the triangle of health because you can spin it either way. So if you are listening and not watching, draw in your mind's eye a picture of a triangle, okay? Even if you're watching, you can do that too. I'm not going to draw it for you. And imagine each apex of the triangle has physical. I always put physical at the top because I'm a chiropractor and that's just what I do. And then chemical, that can be food, the air we breathe, what we drink, right? The chemical compounds that are going into our bodies are at another apex. And then emotional, we can call it mental health. We can also say spiritual health, all of that. The emotional world is on the other apex. And so when we were taught it in chiropractic school, it was like the things that could stress a body out and cause the stress response, which is an exact physiologic response that your body has to stress. But like I said, I thought that was kind of a downer. So I like to call it the triangle of health because it works just in the opposite way as well. All three of those things can build you up, and the decisions that you make, the ownership that you take in those three areas, even if they're little, right? They don't have to be like huge, big changes. It can affect your health status in really great ways. And then I always walk people through how to navigate it if you are, it's never going to be perfect. Your physical, chemical, and emotional health, it's rare that you're going to have a day where they're all three just like, you're just killing it, right? That's just not going to happen. Most often, there's something like you're on vacation, right? And so maybe you are on vacation and you know you're going to be going to the beach and you know your chemical health is going to be off because, let's be honest, most people on vacation eat out a lot more. Maybe you drink alcohol a lot more or just more than normal for you. And that's a stressor. That's different than what you usually do day to day. And so then you look at that triangle of health and you think, okay, so I know that chemically I'm going to be stressed this week on vacation. What can I do to help build my triangle? Well, make sure you're getting out and doing walks on the beach. Make sure that you're having good conversations with the people that you're on vacation with. Go for a walk with your best friend or your mom or your husband, whoever you're vacationing with, to help support you and balance that out. And you can do that in any way, right? Like if you broke your ankle and physical workouts are going to be challenging, this is not the time to just go binge on Ben and Jerry's and watch Netflix all the time, right? You're going to want to pour into yourself nutritionally and balance it out that way.
So I think one of the things that we're trying to maybe help people understand is that when you pull on one side of this triangle, the other corners of that triangle also move. When you make changes in one side or stress one side, it affects the other areas of your life because you are a holistic person, whole with a W, and so we try to break these things out into, well, my mental health isn't the same thing as my stress or my physical health. And I'm like, they feed and inform and counterbalance each other in a lot of ways. And so I'm curious, are we talking about the whole triangle today?
No, we're gonna separate them out. I just wanted to introduce it.
Okay. And
so that they knew
Kirsten,
the
you guys sing
paradigm
your
we're
song
working out of.
for which one we're talking about?
Let's
which one are we
get
talking
physical. I want to get
I know.
physical.
Wow. I'm so proud of you, Taylor, for teeing her up like that.
I just
That's
don't ask
great.
me to do it, so we're
We
fine.
are honing in on physical health today.
Hey, I have, oh, you can't see it. I have my calf stretch mug with my little
Nice.
lipstick mark on there, but because we're talking about physical.
I've got on my
physical healthy
active
magnet.
wear, my tennis shoes, my active wear.
Nice.
I didn't think about
You're wearing
this.
a hat.
Like I'm wearing a hat and a hoodie, but yeah, I'm not like, wow, I'm gonna think about physical health as I put on my clothes today to sit down and look at a screen. Like that's
Yeah, I'll
not
be
how I
honest.
went through that process.
I just grabbed this mug because it was there, but I thought it was appropriate. So here we go.
There you go.
Yeah, we're going to talk about physical health. I mean, I am a chiropractor. That's where it all started. But Kirsten and I talked about this briefly. We didn't talk a lot about this episode, but we did talk briefly on Thursday night. And so when I came to faith in Christ was when I was in my first year of Logan chiropractic school. And so as I'm like growing and learning about basic physiology, anatomy, chemistry, organic chem, all of that, I'm learning about who Jesus is and just going through the Bible. And I was just floored on how much our physical health goes with our spiritual health. It just blew my mind. And then when I learned the triangle of health, I was like, wow, it really is all connected. And that's part of why we're here now doing this podcast and, living this out for others, is that I just think it's something that is not talked about enough, especially in the realm of Christian churches. And one of the conversations that we had Thursday that I've been hit with is that so many books of the New Testament are like Paul writing to people about being aware of like false gospels or gospels that aren't the true one. And one of those was Gnosticism, which is separating the body from the spirit. And I'm like, are we a Gnostic culture right now? Like even within the church at times, like that, I'm just going to lay that question out there.
I'm not touching that question.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, because I don't know. I haven't thought about it through that lens. There's so much to
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just how the church even talks about mental health or physical health in general. So if you look at it from a very a big high 30,000 foot lens, I think there is a space where the church doesn't want to really acknowledge these areas of health explicitly necessarily.
Yeah.
And I don't think they should stand up on the pulpit and talk about eating Brussels sprouts, but there is balance in all of things. And Jesus preached balance. Jesus was balance. He showed you how to engage with full crowds of people and then disappear and go hang out on a mountain by himself for, periods of time. He showed us what to do, but he didn't show us necessarily physical health because they walked everywhere. Right. I mean, it wasn't like they had to worry about sitting in front of a screen for 8 hours a day or whatever it is that most of our country or world does these days. So,
yeah.
So I've been thinking about Gnosticism the last couple of days too. And I looked up in general, what is Gnosticism? And Gnosticism teaches that the material world is a trap and that humans contain a divine spark through our experiential knowledge. So saying that knowledge in our headspace is much more important and that matter, physical things, are flawed and corrupt or even evil. And I think a part the Bible does speak to that. God created God created everything.
And he didn't just create it, he called it good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And he created our bodies. He created us in his image. He created us to need and be dependent on the world that he created, on other people's bodies for life. Babies are born through the mother's body and then nourished through the mother's body. He provides food in the material world and even the materials to make the clothes that keep our bodies warm. And the true Gnosticism, it says all of that is corrupt and not important. Where we are mentally matters. So I think that's going to always, to say are we in a Gnostic culture right now? I don't know, but there are parts of Gnosticism that certainly come out in the way that we engage the world. and the way
I
Yeah.
mean, the Enlightenment told
our
us that,
bodies.
yeah, the Enlightenment told us that rational thought was superior to anything of,
Yeah.
emotional worlds or physical health. And so like it was all about logic and reason, as
Hmm.
opposed to actually relationship or spirituality or even physical health, which we're talking about
Yeah.
today. So
Yeah. That's interesting. We also touched, kind of in the same veins of like Jesus came in a body. Jesus experienced what it was like in a body. He was resurrected from the dead and came and showed himself in a body. We are promised new bodies when we go to heaven, right? And so the space of like the physical aspect of where we are living, our little home that we're in, our temple is vitally important to who you are, how you express your faith, and how you reveal Christ to others. And that's one thing that I've always kind of said in my head of like, we are called to be healthy. And however, my definition of health to adapt to stressors in an appropriate manner so that we can go love our neighbors
Mm.
as ourselves. We're commissioned to go out and share the gospel and to love others as ourselves. So, how do we do that if we're stuck at home, riddled with some health issue, right? And some of us, I'm not saying all things are healable and that, there's a lot of issues that we experience in these bodies because of the fall that limit
Mhm.
our abilities in great ways, right? I'm not denying that. But it is a good conversation, I think, for us to enter of just like, well, what does it mean? And how does physical health affect the other areas of our triangle, the emotional and the chemical part?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When you draw this triangle for patients, or when you talk about this thought process paradigm, do you go into detail about physical health and what that looks like?
I think it just depends on the person, if they're here for chiropractic care, absolutely, because that's why they're seeking out help right
Yeah.
now. I said earlier on that triangle that the emotional apex could include spiritual, but I adapted that actually a while back and I just put spiritual in the middle
Yeah.
because I think it's really all encompassing. Spiritual and emotional are not the same things.
Yeah.
And so I just want to clarify that. I just was thinking about that. And so put a big S in the middle of your triangle or a big J for Jesus.
I am thinking about how the first person I've heard multiple people say this recently. The first person that I ever heard use this phrase was Francis Schaeffer, but he says, all truth is God's truth. And I think
Mm,
the more that I learn about, well, hang on, all truth is God's truth. God created everything. He is the king of the universe, sits on his throne, and he created all of this. He created us. And so as we continue to learn, we're learning more about his world and what he created and how he makes things work. And so the more that I learn about physical health or how our bodies work, the more I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. And it makes the Bible come alive more in this way. Or when I was going through the counseling program, the more that I learned about the ways that our brains work and emotions and relationships, the more I was like, oh, that's what God's talking about in this part of the Bible. And so, yeah, I think putting the spiritual at like saying that all of those parts of us are spiritual
Mhm.
is key. And I'm also thinking about how, like, when God created us, created man out of dust, he breathed life into that. Like, we are carbon and nitrogen without the breath of life that he
yeah.
gives us.
Well, and if we could talk about that all day long, I would just throw out a few resources for people because we are not the first to have this conversation, and there's a lot of great information out there. I think of Elisa Keaton and the Body Revelation is a great, or the Wellness Revelation is actually what it's called. And another gentleman came out with a book, and I'm blanking on his name, but it's called Fit Church. That's also a great one that he does a really good job going through a lot of scripture in that one. But the book that really set me on this course that I found, gosh, probably in 2016 is Philip Yancey's Fearfully and Wonderfully Made. And it is such a cool book. I just highly recommend people grabbing that and reading it. It was powerful for me to really see he does a great job mirroring some of our basic physiology with the redeeming love of Jesus and his sacrifice for us. And it's really a good book. So always Justin Early, The Body Teaches the Soul. We'll mention him again too. But, I love that books are still being written about this and that the conversation is out there. It's coming. I feel like there's more and more. So it's really good. All right. Where are we going to take it from here? We're going physical. I mean, I can describe chiropractic and how the nervous system, I could just go basic chiropractic here. Taylor, you could take on, you want to do your 4 things?
I'm more than willing to talk about the mental or emotional health benefits of moving, and so, yeah, like first it's just regulation. Like moving gives the opportunity for us to discharge sympathetic energy in our systems that accumulated throughout the stresses of your day.
What's sympathetic energy?
Well, it's the energy that your sympathetic nervous system gives you to manage your fight or flight or stress response, right? And so we're talking about cortisol, adrenaline, neuroepinephrine, and a whole bunch of other big words that I don't know off the top of my head. And so it helps us because if we remain in sympathetic nervous system, we're not able to actually connect with anybody. We're just kind of like managing our nervous system. Like we're just managing the fight or flight response. And so we don't actually get to ever down regulate and connect. And so movement actually helps us discharge some of that adrenaline, helps us give a place for these things to go. I think I heard somewhere, I haven't confirmed this, but I've heard melatonin is actually the counter agent to cortisol. And so that's why, like, if you get good sleep, cortisol kind of can, if it's in a ventral coming from a rested or a place of, ventral vagal, which is, social engagement, like you will find your body's not holding on to cortisol as much. We are a cortisol holding culture. This is what we do. We are belly fat culture. We don't know how to get rid of our stress. And so, yeah, movement gives us the ability to come back into ventral vagal. And, it helps increase our ability to feel safe. Interoception is a space of analyzing the space between relationships. And so, like, if we're able to come into a place of ventral vagal, which is a social engagement place of our body, we're able to kind of be aware. We're able to kind of speak with awareness of how we're feeling. We can begin to pay attention to when things go a little bit wonky and like, well, you did that face that made me feel this way. And so I can ask the question with confidence instead of assuming there is a judgment out of a sympathetic response. And so agency, I think, is an interesting word. It gives us a sense of control. We get to be embodied in that I can do something as opposed to I just have to take whatever's happening and wear it, so to speak. I think of just choosing how you transition from work to home life, whatever your work was to whatever your home life is, and how we define rest. For me to be sitting with 8-9 counselors in a day, or clients in a day, and coming home and then sitting isn't always the best. But if I'm able to come home and stretch or take a walk or even just run in place for 30 seconds, it's going to help me feel more in my body, and I get to choose to do that. And then lastly, I think...
Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say there's something really interesting to me. I didn't really realize that face-to-face conversation or with people is called interoception.
Well, it's actually it's not what that is. It's actually just your body's awareness of how you feel in the space between people. Like that's okay. Like, because you have, you gotta have like the outside information of context, you have your inside information, and you have like the in-between information. So interoception is like how we make sense of safety in between.
Okay. Because in like my education, proprioception is the nervous system knowing where we are in space. And we have all different types of nerve endings surrounding every single joint, which is why I love chiropractic. And what I do is because we get to turn on those proprioceptors when we adjust people's bodies. And so when you're exercising and you're moving those joints, let's not even say exercising to take out that word of like when you're just moving, when you walk, when you stretch, when you breathe fully and stretch your lungs out so that your rib cage really moves, that feeds your brain proprioceptive information And I just think like how important the proprioception must be in order for you to know where you are in space before you even determine what it feels like in space between somebody else, right? I just
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
kind of blew my mind for a second.
Well, I mean, and thinking like also just moving your joints in general. Like, I think the old adage is if you don't move it, you lose it, right? I mean, and like we're not getting younger. No one's getting younger. I haven't found the person that's Benjamin Button that's going backwards yet. He might be out there, but like, so we all need to pay attention to that. So I think the last one there is just like, connection, like, movement. It helps have us, because we only know how to like have a sense of safety by having a sense of shared co-regulation at points. And so how do we maybe do some of these things with others, like walking with your spouse, walking with a close friend? People dance, you people in particular. I, however, won't. Sports, I'll, go rock climbing with friends, doing yoga, like all these things, kind of like breathing, giving space for like your body, your joints to move. And I think all those kind of, come into place. And just a couple of resources. Peter Levine, Waking the Tiger, is a foundational resource for SE practitioners, obviously. But then Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score. He talks a lot about how movement integrates the nervous system, and Levine would actually say, I think, how movement completes the stress response. Kind of like we have stress and we kind of work our way through it. So I think just for like, I'm not making things up, but so helping people see that they can go read these books and have those all find more. And there are more books. I can post all of them, that I think are the good resources too. So
we can totally link that in the show notes. I love that you said it completes the stress response, because so often, there's a lot of times in our day, whether we're parenting or at work, and something stresses us out and we can't react right away, right? We have to kind of shove it down. We have to be there's a lot, just whatever. You're in the service industry, you got the patient's always right. All those things that you have to navigate. Where does it go? Where does it go? And movement is releasing that. I was just talking to somebody on Thursday about when you're running late with clients and we're having a hard time and we got a waiting room full of people, how do you do that? And I'm like, often I walk away, look at my next patient and say, go ahead in my room, have a seat. I'll be there in a minute. And I walk down the hall into the kitchen, move around in the kitchen. I spend 2 minutes of just me time doing something, and then I can go back in the room. And then I save myself those 2 minutes just because I'm actually back in my body. I can think clearly again, and I can be more expedient in care because I'm actually working again versus having this huge foggy brain situation because my stress response has taken over. So just makes me think of that, completing the circle.
Mm-hmm.
You look like you're deep in thought, Kirsten. What are you thinking?
Deep in thought.
So many things going through. There's a lot of smoke coming out of your ears.
I'm just applying everything that you guys are saying currently.
Just moving.
As you talk about dancing, I'm like, yeah. As you talk about breathing and paying attention to our bodies, I'm like, oh, Taylor, when you mentioned cortisol, belly, I was like, pay attention to the way I'm holding my lower back and my right. Yeah. So we talked about breath. I took a deep breath. I'm just applying everything as you talk right now in real time.
Well, and like, I think because I've been on this trend recently where I've watched some Instagram reels, and a lot of my Instagram feed is like woodworking or mental health things. So it's like interspersed with random things from the 80s, and it's interesting the things that people come up with in like somatically for physical movement that helps, kind of like small things that we can do. And so I saw one, like, I think over the weekend, last weekend, that was like referencing how many nerve endings are in your feet, which I'm like, checks out. Yes, that's true from my simple knowledge base of the physical anatomy. And she said to just make fists with your toes, like curl your toes and like do that like 20 times. And I'm like, 20 times? That's a lot. And so I was like, challenge accepted. So I went into multiple sessions this week having people just make fists with their toes. And not one of them said that things were worse afterwards. Some people thought it was a lot better than other people, but like, it's just like just breathing and making and contracting something and releasing, contracting and releasing. It could be squeezing your hands. It could be rolling your shoulders. Like, I think all these things are just like small avenues that you can do while in a meeting. I do it while I'm with clients. I'm doing lots of these things because I have to regulate somehow. Right. And so,
Are you both
just thought that was interesting. So
are you both squeezing your toes right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been doing it.
Absolutely.
I had to start.
Making sure. Yeah, I think it's interesting how when you hyper focus on one area of your body, it takes you out of your head or out of like kind of moves stress from one area of the body to another. So something that Abby and I both practice is muscle testing. And there is a child who I muscle test who, or oftentimes when I'm testing children, they are kind of ticklish. And if they're old enough, I will, when I'm putting my hand, like I have to put my hand on their neck a little bit. And that's like a ticklish spot. And so they want to curl up. And so I have told them, I want you to squeeze your hands really tightly, or take your fingers and press your fingers together and just squeeze them and think about your fingers for a minute while I touch your neck. And it helps because they are hyper focused on something else.
Yeah.
And I think that also gets us out of when I start to pay attention to parts of my body, I think going back to like how the idea of Gnosticism and where we are culturally and how we as Christians oftentimes can get stuck. Like in church, I will, a significant portion of every church service is the sermon, where we are sitting and just taking in information. And in church services, when a significant portion of the service is focused on head knowledge, I find my body sometimes getting uncomfortable. And I will sometimes stand up in the back of the sanctuary, or just start like rotating my ankles around, paying attention to my breath, because I realize how my body tenses up when I'm only using or mainly using my head.
Yeah.
There is one of the best things I ever heard an SE practitioner say in one of my trainings was, the thing that you're focusing on, you give power to. And so if you're focusing on how anxious you are and how tight your chest is, it's probably going to get tighter because you're giving it more power and negative energy power, like you're giving it a negative bent. And so that just that simple process you talked about, Kirsten, of shifting focus away to something even external, but even just another part of your body that isn't tight, is so helpful. And it's like like most of the things I give people are so stupidly simple that I'm almost feel bad saying it out loud to them. I'm like, you're paying me money for this very simple thing that I think you could have probably found in a little bit of research on your own, but here we are, and so like simply just shifting focus and doing it with them, breathing fully. Like, I think these physical things literally calm your body down. Like,
well, and
calm your nervous system. So.
I think we've been taught, and maybe this isn't true, but I think for so long we were taught that only doctors know about the body. It was like you went to the doctor when I was a kid. That's how it was for sure. Like, I idolized my doctor. I mean, I wanted to be one, so maybe that was part of it. But like, we went to them, because they knew what was going on with the body. And in a lot of cases, that's true. But when you said all truth is God's truth, and I think about like our temple, He gave us this house to live in. Like, we just bought a new home in May, and we're learning about all the things to take care of this house. Like, why wouldn't we, as homeowners of this temple, be equipped with the knowledge to take care of it, right? And I really hope that this podcast does that in some capacity for people to help understand that, like, I think a lot of times because we don't know, we think the answer is going to be big and complicated. But the beauty of the Christian faith is that children can understand it and believe it, right? And the beauty of our bodies are that it's really quite simple. The smallest things can actually make a huge difference. Drinking water is essential. And when I feel bad, when I tell people, you have to drink water, It's like I have multiple patients who have told me, I'm like, okay, well, how much water do you drink? And they're like, no. Like they literally just say no. You're like, you don't drink water. Maybe a half a cup a day. Okay, well, what do you drink? Coffee and soda, and it's like, okay, well, both of those are dehydrating and you need water. So let's just start with water. And it's hard because it's different, but at the end of the day, like it's simple. And it's just that simple. You wouldn't not put gas in your car. It runs off
Yeah.
gas, right? You run out of gas, you go get more gas. You don't give it Hawaiian Punch. Where did that come
Oh,
from? Hawaiian Punch.
well, Hawaiian, that's a reference.
You said 80s, maybe it just came out, but and so same for water, right? Like if you have a physical symptom, whether it's achy low back or what, like drink water. Good job, Kirsten. She just took a drink of water.
I'm gonna stick with my tea. I got the tea right here.
So I mean, I think it's just sometimes we think the answers are so big and we think we have to find it on Instagram or our best friend started this new supplement or whatever it might be. But a lot of it is the physical, taking care of your physical body is moving, nourishing it, and being in community with others, which is what we're just going to keep talking about. But
Yeah.
On repeat.
yes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's like, I walked once last year. Great. I had water when I was, a baby. Great. You're
or the space of like, oh, there's water in coffee. And it's like, yeah, but the caffeine's dehydrating. So we can't do
so
that.
It's like you in my health journey, I've learned that I can't just run once a month and it's going to help. I mean, it's going to help a bit, but for it to actually make a difference, you have to consistently do things.
Yeah.
Relationally, emotionally, physically, you have to be consistent. Right. And so
absolutely.
Doesn't mean you can't mess up. You just have to pick it back up and go back. Right. So
and start small. I mean, like all of the big like boot camps, all these huge, like right now it's military calisthenics are all over my Instagram page. I'm like, man, I paused one time to find out what that workout was. But it's like, if you haven't moved your body in a long time, walking is great. Walking is great. Yeah. It's so great. We don't have to do anything other than just go out of your house, go one block and come back and start there. It really can be the smallest things will make a large difference. And so we don't have to buy that $99 subscription monthly thing unless you want to start shuffle dancing with your friends on Thursday nights, and then you should.
Kirsten, what were you going to say?
I'm not sure. Shuffle dancing? You want me to go into shuffle dancing? Oh, I was going to say I think when you, Taylor, were saying we have to do these things, Abby said, drink water, fuel your body, move your body in community with others. And then Taylor, you said on repeat, and you went into like, you can't just exercise once a month and expect that to make a huge difference. You can't just drink a little bit of water. Did y'all see that light just come on?
I did.
It's bad.
You can't just drink water, half a glass of water every day and expect that to make a difference. You've got to drink, be consistent throughout the day and throughout the week. And I was thinking about that in relationship to being with other people too, and how a lot of what we're talking about is really simple. But when we are overloaded with information and also what we're doing, like the simplicity of these things are so countercultural to a lot of, we're in a cortisol driven culture. To slow down, and like drinking water actually does require a little bit of a slowing down. Like you got to pay attention to, my body needs, I'm thirsty. Mm-hmm. And that when you're stressed can be really hard to do. And I can forget to drink water, but all that spending time with other people, slowing down and having a meal with other people, moving your body when you have a massive to-do list, it all requires a sense of paying attention to yourself, paying attention to your needs and slowing down. And that is not the norm of our current culture.
My dear friend Terry told me a couple years ago about, I don't know who she got this from. I think it was a book she was reading at the time, talked about in the morning, taking 5 to 10 minutes and do what he called a sip and see, where you are drinking your water and just sitting and looking around. And maybe you're watching the sunrise, maybe you're looking out a window. But I love that for any time of day, right? And it doesn't have to be 10 minutes. You could sip and see in your car as you're transitioning from work into your house, like you were talking about earlier, Taylor, of like, how are we breaking up our day or taking time to finish the stress cycle, the cortisol cycle? And it really can be something as simple as sipping on your water and just sitting
Yeah.
for 2 minutes and not doing anything, not listening to the podcast, not listening to the radio, just seeing, just looking around.
Unless it's this podcast, you can listen to this.
Yes.
Yeah. I've thought multiple times, and I've actually practiced this a couple of times, but even as we're talking, I'm like, I need to do this more. There have been a couple of times where I have sat down with a client in the beginning of an appointment and said, before we do anything, we're going to both take a couple of sips of water and a couple of deep breaths. And it's amazing how that resets you.
Yeah.
Just
And it doesn't take much.
doesn't take much at
Yeah.
all. I love the concept of a sip and see.
Sip and see. I think we could end with a sip and see.
Okay. Life application.
So-
Sip and see.
So when this podcast ends,
C and B.
after Kirsten says goodbye, you will like this podcast and share it with your friend. And then you will just sit quietly wherever you are and just look around you and be grateful for what's around you.
I hope it's a safe place that you
Well,
can
that's
stop
true.
doing something.
Maybe not like at
Don't
a
just
red
stop at a
light.
light and don't move. Like, I mean, we'll do a parking lot or something, but like,
Okay.
be safe.
Be safe.
Make good choices, guys.
After Kirsten says goodbye.
Is that
All
it?
right. Well,
Is that it?
thank you.
I was like, is that your goodbye?
Thank you for listening to our podcast and being on this journey with us. We are glad that you're here. We hope you will like our podcast, leave a review, share it with someone you know, and come back next time where we're going to continue talking about the triangle of health. Next, we're going to hit on the chemical and emotional apexes of it. And we're glad you're here. So goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.